our topic of this panel may for many people outside our little bubble as disabled community be a bit obscure, if not even slightly weird or a paradox, because for a long time, people with disability have been perceived as people who, because of their oh so horrible existence as disabled, pitiful creatures, would never, ever, ever consider culture part of their lives. I mean, look at films, look at theatre, look at literature, until maybe 10 years ago, and I can list you tons of different examples if we had the time. I think if I start, I'll end 2025. I'll list you tons of examples where we'd be portrayed as pitiful, either oh so expiring mixtures of Superman, Batman, Mickey Mouse, and Terminator all at once, or we were these thankful aliens that look a complete mess, were asexual, didn't care about our looks, and definitely didn't like to have fun or culture. Now, the reality, as we all know, is obviously different, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But it's these cliches and stereotypes that partly led to our political and social structures to be, to this day, to be made for non-disabled artists and culture consumers. And that is why we definitely need to change our ways, and that's why we are here today with allies and people like myself and all the guests and panelists that are here to talk about what we can do. So what we aim to do today is a bit of a reality check. We are, where are we now? What can we do? What can be improved? What can we improve ourselves as a disabled community? How can allies help us? And how can we get politics and society to finally change their outdated structures? My name's Amy Zayed. I am a music and cultural journalist working for German public and national radio and the BBC. I also do various podcasts, and I am blind since birth. And I will host this panel, or try to. For me, it's an absolute honor to welcome our guests. First is Werner Zoyo, aka Black Devil. He's a disabled artist. He's a disabled artist. He's been part of the Ich Mach Welle project since 2018. After his collaboration with the experimental musician MFX in 2020, he went on to collaborate with DJ Normal 4 in 2021 as part of the Warming Showcase at Pop Culture Festival here in Berlin. And his first release is out on Killer Kill label today. So go get it now. Welcome, Werner. Then, next on the panel, I'm just going to put this sheet away so it's not in my way. And next on our panel, we have Markus Lau, who manages Lebenshilfe GmbH, which is one of the biggest social institutions providing consulting for families with of people with disabilities. He's managing various inclusion projects, amongst others Spaceship, an inclusive event series which succeeded to establish a massive fan base, and an event that features around 70% of people with disability on stage and in the audience since 2018. He is co-organizing the Ich Mach Welle project, which we heard Black Devil is also part of. And so big applause for Markus Lau. Then we have my sweetie Daniel Vase from, should we say he's not disabled, but he's our ally, and he's a renowned choreographer, creative director, and founder of internationally acclaimed Drag Syndrome. He's so amazing, this guy. He's also the art director of hope I say that Radical Beauty Project, an international photographer project focusing on people with Down syndrome. Daniel is quite well known for merging avant-garde art and popular culture and working with artists with disabilities. Please give a big applause from Daniel Weiss from London. And we should not forget, how could I forget, let me just look this right, we have Maureen Noy, who is someone that I'm really happy to have on the panel because I can ask her like real things, like what can be done, like proper, facts. She is she's a referent to the managing director and project manager for artists funding at Music Board Berlin, which is a state-owned funding institution for pop music in Berlin that also runs Pop Kultur Festival and Fête de la Musique in Berlin, which is going on today, actually. Fête de la Musique is going on at the moment. In her capacity as project manager, artist funding, she runs the scholarship and international residency program for Music Board Berlin, connecting over a dozen music residencies worldwide, which I'm finding really interesting also for musicians with disabilities. So applause for Maureen. And our last panelist, we have El Caballero Man, who is the artistic director of Schwutz, one of the largest and longest running queer clubs in Berlin, besides organizing various parties and advertising LGBTIQ audience. He conceptualizes and organizes a wide range of events such as concerts, shows, festivals, film screenings, and panel discussions. So welcome, El Caballero Man. Now I'll start with Werner. With Werner, I'll ask the question in English, and then I'll translate it to Werner in German, wait until Werner answers, and then translate it back to English to all of those who don't speak German. Now, Werner, first of all, tell us a bit about your work. What exactly do you do as an artist? Werner, sag uns doch, was du bitte so als Künstler, was ist genau, wie sieht deine Kunst ungefähr oder deine Musik ungefähr aus? Wer sie noch nicht gehört hat, wer sich jetzt das Album oder die EP kaufen soll, wie soll es gehen?
Also, Dankeschön erstmal, dass ich hier sein darf. Und danke, dass ihr so zahlreich alle erschienen seid. Und ja, meine Musik ist experimentell, verschiedene Samples anderer Künstler oder so halt. Also was mir halt so gerade einfällt, worauf ich gerade Lust habe, versuche ich irgendwie zu verwursteln und mache dann irgendwas draus. Also das ist dann, ja.
He says he's trying to kind of mix loads of different genres together and mixes his creativity in between, and that's what kind of comes out of it. So you definitely have to buy the album, the EP. Du liebst Platten. Auf welche Mucke stehst du? Ich sage das nur kurz auf Englisch. Werner is a big, he loves vinyl, and he loves records. So what kind of music do you like? Auf was stehst du?
Also ich stehe auf richtigen Techno, auf richtigen schönen Baller-Techno. Früher so auf Dance-Musik. Und ja.
Nee, mach weiter. Ich wollte dich nicht unterbrechen. Also. He loves techno and like really old school techno, and now it's like really good dancing music. That's what he likes. How was it to make your first record? Wie war es, deine erste Platte zu machen?
Meine erste Platte zu machen war sehr spannend und ja, also es ist sehr überraschend, erstmal so weit zu kommen, so weit zu schaffen. Selbst meine Familie, meine Familienmitglieder haben auch heute gesagt, dass du so weit gebracht hast. Die sind sehr stolz auf mich und danke dafür. Auch viele andere Leute, Freunde, Familie sind stolz auf mich und ich danke auch Markus Lau, ich danke Felix Haliszewski, ich danke Herr Carsten Hürth, ich danke Nico Deuster, ich danke allen, die dafür mitbewirkt haben und
Werner says it was very exciting and he would have never ever believed it. And even his family would say, wow, it's amazing that you've done that. And he was thanking everyone who helped this, to happen. So amongst others, Nico Deuster, who runs the label, I think. So ich meine, wie ist das deine, ich sage es zuerst auf Englisch, what was it like to see your first record in the shops? Wie ist es, deine erste Platte im Laden so zu sehen?
Also sehr gut, ich bin da sehr stolz drauf, wie gesagt, also es kann ich gar nicht beschreiben, gar nicht in Worte fassen.
He's so proud he can't even put it into words. How do you think people would have believed that you'd make a record? I mean, especially people who would think that disability is a big barrier or a big burden. Denkst du, die meisten haben daran geglaubt, dass du das mal schaffst, eine eigene Platte, auch gerade solche Leute, die sich von vornherein nicht vorstellen können, dass ein Mensch mit einer Behinderung das überhaupt kann?
Also sag mal so, in der Schule zum Beispiel hat man mich gefragt, was willst du später mal werden? Da habe ich gesagt, Elektriker oder DJ. Und die meisten meinten so, ja, du kannst ja keine Schreibpläne lesen oder halt keine Musik oder so, da muss man sich auskennen und so. Und wie gesagt, man hat mich halt nicht ernst genommen und ich habe gesagt, bin dran geblieben und habe dann irgendwann mit 16 angefangen, Platten zu sammeln und halt bin ich dann irgendwann hier auf das Projekt Killikel gestoßen, auf Nico Deuster, und da hat sich das dann alles so entwickelt.
He was saying that when he was at school, when he was asked what he would like to do, he would say, I'd be an electrician or I'd be a DJ. And they would laugh at him and say, like, you can't even read like the plan at the Mensa or something. You can't read. How on earth would you want to be a DJ? But yeah, they can look at him now. He went out of school and met Nico Deuster, and now he's got a record out. So we can see it's nothing to do with being disabled. You're working with Ich mach Welle. What exactly is that? What do you do there? Was machst du bei Ich mach Welle?
Also Ich mach Welle ist ein Workshop für Menschen mit Behinderung und so, wo man Musik machen kann mit elektrischen Geräten, Synthesizern und so Drum Machines und so, und wo man halt so einen Song halt fertig basteln kann und halt gucken kann, wie das ist, ob das was für einen ist, und halt Und für mich hat es halt Spaß gemacht, Musik zu machen, und ich wollte dranbleiben und ja.
Also coachst du da andere behinderte Menschen oder?
Also ich selber nicht, aber das machen so Lehrer wie Dave und Honey und so, die jetzt auch gerade einen Workshop machen. Wie gesagt, also die machen das meistens und die haben mir das auch beigebracht, und da bin ich auch sehr stolz drauf, und Dankeschön dafür.
Wow. So the idea is that I asked him about Ich mach Welle, which is a project that he's part of, and he said it's a project about where disabled people learn how to make music and how to produce music on their own. And he's been part of the workshops and he enjoyed it so much. And it taught him a lot, and it brought him where he is now. So yeah, he was very, very thankful to Ich mach Welle. What would you want for more people with disabilities to be successful? Because if we look at the charts, do we see people with disability? No. If we look at, if we look at the last 10 years maybe, I wouldn't know anyone in the charts. Maybe Andrea Bocelli, but that's ages ago. Ray Charles, when I was not even born. And I'm as old as Nefertiti. I don't know. Then Stevie Wonder, that was, I was called to say I love you was when I was 10. So, I don't know. Die Frage ist, was würdest du dir wünschen, damit behinderte Menschen erfolgreicher werden? Weil ich meine, wenn man so sich die Charts anguckt, ist ja schon was her, dass da mal jemand Behindertes war.
Kann ich die Frage nochmal gestellt bekommen?
Klar, natürlich. Was würdest du dir wünschen, damit behinderte Menschen, was muss passieren, damit behinderte Menschen erfolgreicher werden?
Auf jeden Fall mehr Inklusion wünsche ich mir für alle und mehr Barrierefreiheit für Clubs und Bars und ja. Fordere ich.
He says the main thing is more accessibility and more inclusion, especially accessibilities in clubs and bars for people with disability. Thank you so much, Werner.
Dankeschön.
Now, I also would like to speak to Marcus. Marcus, we talked about you. You have this amazing project with these, this club event with, which is very inclusive. How do you reach your audience? I mean, how do you do community management? Because I was doing a panel the other day at Republica, and one of the biggest problems, for example, theatre people, was to reach people with disability, to actually go to the shows with audio description and stuff.
A little correction. The spaceship is since 2016, not 18.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. And we use our usual social channels with other NGOs, with other organizations for disabled people, but we use the same design for the flyers, like in the Menschmeier. We are in the usual program, in the month program. We have flyers and we have stickers. We are sticking the whole city, and we have enough money from Action Mensch, who supports our party, the inclusive party. So we have a small entry, and we can book artists who known in Berlin. And so people came to the party and think, oh, what's that? It's cool, just €2. I like the audience. It's 6 p.m. and people are dancing like it's a weird festival. And we have nice DJs, we have nice bands. Lots of them are also inclusive. We have some dogma. We want always people with handicap on the stages. And now we have also jobs in the club, so people with handicap are at the door, at the wardrobe, at the bar, at the technical support, artist support, so that we're not open the door for the clubs, which is one of our goals, that our people from our community can manage this club. For some hours.
But is Spaceship kind of considered or promoted as an inclusive event, or is it just like promoted as a mainstream event and then people realize, oh, it's a very inclusive event?
In the inner circle, with emails and with social NGOs, it's clear that it's an inclusive party. On the flyer, there's a stamp from our logo from the Lebenshilfe and also from Action Mensch. But there's no signature like it's an inclusive party. Just a spaceship party, the time, and the bookings.
I think that's always like a bit of a... That's, I think, what everyone's asking themselves, because sometimes when you label an event as an inclusive event, it becomes this, oh yeah, it's like it's going out with families where they bring their children to a party.
It sounds boring,
yeah,
yes.
It sounds, you know what I mean? So that's why I was asking this, do you think there's pros and cons about, labeling it as that?
At the end, it goes about we want to have a good party and a good time, so we are promoting a party. And the background, it's totally inclusive, but the goal is to have a good party and have a good time. In the background, it's clear that it's also a safe space, like a safe discotheque in a safe house. But we don't to promote this. It's clear for us when we do a party for handicapped people that we will have an awareness team and so on, also an inclusive awareness team. It's clear, but we don't want to label it's inclusive. So because that's something that's also segregate what we don't want.
Absolutely understandable. No, I'm absolutely with you there, because I think the only way to get inclusion forward is to be more, to get it into the mainstream. I always say, and we're going to talk about that a bit more later with Daniel, I always think that, I think disability or disability awareness needs to be a bit more sexy. I find it like we always talk about, we talk about our disability, but then we don't do it as sexy as maybe other groups do it, and we should be a bit better at that sometimes.
We should be sexy. I think the spaceship is sexy. And Nico, he came as a DJ. We booked him, and this was something like the seat of Igmar Welle that he talks with Werner about vinyls. And Nico said he came from an after hour. It was totally boring. He was booked for 6 p.m. and he was the first DJ. And this is something special. It is totally packed when we open the doors. People are dancing and screaming, and it's like a feeling like on the festival after 28 hours, totally on drugs, and these are just people because of the music and the power. And this is the spirit, and this is sexy.
Oh, I need to come then. That sounds
Yes,
like
you
a party.
do. You are invited.
This is a party I'd
You're
like
all
to be
invited.
at.
Yes, that's
Thank
for sure.
you. You also run the Igmar Welle project, don't you?
Yes.
I think this is an amazing project. So tell me a bit about these workshops, because I think it could help so much if more disabled people get to know how to produce their own music and kind of are more independent in that sense.
Yeah, it's more a regular workshop. It's more like a music school. We have like a co-mentorship systems that we have a band, Wellenbrecher. We have artists like solo artists like Werner. He's also part of the band, and we have a mentorship system that we pair them with other musicians, and they do something weird together. And learn from each other. We don't think just disabled people learn. No, they learn from each other. And Werner, for example, when he plays live, he have all kinds of sequencers, drum machines, I don't know, and he's doing it live with maybe 10 or 20 things on the table, and professional musicians say, what the fuck? I do it with my PC, and then I have maybe 1 or 2, and Werner's doing just like that. So we are learning from each other, and that's the clue. And it's more like a free time hobby music school with an outcome.
Thank you so much, Marcos. We'll talk to you later, but I need to turn to this amazing gentleman next to me. Daniel Vase, you are doing something amazing. You are doing this group called, or this project called Drag Syndrome in London. Would you please tell us a bit more about it? What is it exactly?
Of course. Who knows drag syndrome here? Shame on you.
Too few.
Yeah.
Too few. Tell them about it. They need to know.
It's a bit weird because
Maybe you
usually
could
where we
change.
go, it's everybody knows us. So, drag syndrome is a drag troupe for drag artists with Down syndrome. We, we're based in London and we're touring internationally. We started in 2018 as an experiment. We did one show that was amazing, and then the artist wanted again. And then since then, we did over 300 shows. We're doing Saturday here in Berlin in About Blank, and the day after, we're going to Glastonbury.
Write it down on your diaries, guys.
Yes. So it's the first drag troupe for drag artists with Down syndrome. They have the capacity and the platform to be who they want to be. And then when you see them live, you'll understand.
I'm so eager. I'd love to see them. It's such a shame I'm going back home to Cologne, but I have to make it a date at some I need to see them for sure. But what do you think makes a good drag artist? How do you pick your artists?
So when you see a good artist, you see a good artist. They either start moving and then you can't stop looking at them. They have something about them. For example, one of the artists, we did a show at Tate Britain, and I had one new artist that came that day to join us. His name is David. I saw him in the end of the corridor of Tate Modern. He was looking for me. He saw my photo. He looking for me. He was walking straight towards me. Put his hand so I can kiss his hand. I kissed his hand and said, I'm David. I'm a superstar. And then I relaxed because I knew I have a new superstar. Before even I saw them performing, you can see the sense of this stardom. So how I find them, it's either word of mouth, the community, or now we're too well known, so people know us and contacting us. But it's not easy to find artists with disability and give them the platform to be professional artists.
Yeah, I guess also because you're, as someone with disability, you always get told you shouldn't be an artist, isn't it?
Oh, shame on you. Have a disability and to be an artist.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
That's horrible.
This is where society put disability in a box, and they put it in a box of disability. It's cute and nice. Everybody knows what they're doing. But beyond the disability, nobody expects people with disability to be fierce, to be geniuses, to be incredible artists, to be fabulous performers. No, they need to be in the box. Well, we opened the box and we're not going to close it.
This is a man after my own heart, guys. But how are you being perceived now? You amazing people just stepped on the stage and shown everyone how it's done. Is everyone going like, where have these people been for all our lives, and why haven't they been there for longer?
Yes, so there's two ways. There's the one that really discovering disability in art, and the people that resisting us. So in the States, our first show was cancelled, and then we find another theater. It was sold out, and then we arrived to the theater. There was protesters outside the theater.
What?
Stop abusing them. They're going on stage to do their job. And there were lots of police and lots of people with placards shouting and screaming, and then we knew we made it. There is a lot of resistance. When you take somebody with disability and put them outside the goody two-shoes, they just be disabled, be quiet and be disabled. When you allow them to be who they are and then they suddenly behave like a human being, society don't like it.
Do you get really weird kind of stuff that like people would say, you guys are disabled, so we're paying you less? Because that's what even when I even get like really weird requests, like where I say, oh, we want your expertise on this and that panel, but you know what, you don't need to get paid because, hey, in the end it's great, you're getting out as a blind person, you don't get to get out that often, don't you?
We give you an opportunity.
Yeah, to promote yourself.
Yes, we're so good, aren't we? Yeah, so we decided not to go and ask, we're just going to take. No negotiation, no conversation with the outside world, with the art world, with the performance world, with the drag world. No conversation. We just here. And then what happened, we got a lot of fan base and a lot of really well-known people supporting us, so we grew quite big. But then we saw that a lot of people want to stop us because how dare disabled people have success? People don't compute. It's very, very difficult to see it. That's why we decided to take the punk route and don't give a shit what other people say. And that showed to a lot of disabled people, just be yourself. You will get criticized anyway. People will judge you, overlook, underpay. Let them. And that's why I'm very happy to see other disabled artists with support, because a disabled artist must have support, because the social media world is nasty. Nasty. Thank God the artists of drag syndrome, I don't allow them to read the comments. Sometimes they sneak. And it's not nice to hear bad things about yourself. And there are nasty people out there. But on the other hand, we have huge superstars contacting us. We're getting DMs from Annie Lennox and many incredible artists. So you get the reflection of what society thinks of disabled people in one way, and then we're redefining what is disability in art and disability. And then people can choose.
it's exactly what they should do. And I think it's their empowerment, and that's the main thing. I think. But you've been touring internationally quite a lot recently. Would you think there's a big difference between the UK and other countries in terms of perception or how people treat you?
A little bit. We come a lot to Germany. I know that the German audience are very open-minded. We can go off-pop. We can do very experimental stuff and avant-garde and go a bit deeper. And the audience really accepting it. Northern Sweden, Finland, all the northern countries are huge fans. We go there a few times a year. UK audience love us. Yeah, they're still kind of like the UK disability, the cute ones. Really nice photograph of somebody with disability. Ooh, look, flowers. And it's, you know, people kind of like will look at something that is easy to look at. Now there is a new wave of disabled artists in the UK that creating incredible work, very intense, very deep work. So we're about to see change in culture around the world. In 3 years' time, you write it down, 3 years' time, maybe 5 if the world is lazy, you'll see clubs, and you'll see people with disabilities everywhere, and there will be people charting, people with disabilities creating music and will chart. This is if you will support it. Because disabled people doing work, but if the outside world just like, oh, so cute, oh, they're so nice, well done. If the outside world won't interact and consume it, it will be very difficult. That's why I suggest, you know, there is an artist here that have a release date today. So our job is to support the artist. It's the vinyl is what, 10 euros? 10 euros, something like that?
Correct, 10 euros.
10 euros. So our job is to support new artists anyway. You know, probably most of you, when you see new artists, you probably support them to keep them going. Same with disabled artists, even more. So when you see an album of disabled artists, just buy it. Maybe in a few years, a museum will ask to borrow it. But this is how we all support culture. We must actually consume it.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Daniel. And also, one of the other things that I think is so important is to make, and I think that's what you guys are doing very well, I said it before, you're making disabled art sexy in a way, because we're not sitting there being very serious talking about a disability, but we're doing like really amazing art. You know what I mean? It's not just being there talking about how awful it is to be disabled, and then it's Kleenex time, and then we're going to all cry and get our Kleenex out and wipe our tears away. It's about having fun, and it's about being ourselves, you know. And I think we could learn a lot from that, you know. And I think that's what I enjoy so much about what you do.
Yeah, I think drag as well give the person the opportunity to be extra. It's an art form that you can be extra. Go beyond yourself and go inside yourself and mix it together. And then somebody with Down syndrome can go on stage and eat the audience.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Now we talk to a lady who is helping Germany to become more inclusive artist-wise and help artists to get there, where maybe the people of drag have managed to get all on their own. Maureen Noy, tell us about how you support artists with disabilities, with people who don't know what you do.
Yeah. I work at MusicBot Berlin, and MusicBot Berlin is a state-owned funding organization for pop music. And state-owned actually means that we receive money from the Senate for culture in Berlin. We actually don't fund all over Germany, but we are really focused on Berlin and from Berlin internationally through our residency programs. And then we distribute this money into the communities, into different projects. And we, on the one side, fund music projects such as festivals, such as this one, or Ik Mag Welle, maybe even Spaceship, right?
Spaceship 1 year,
as well,
yes. Thank you very much.
And then we also fund artists directly, and this is my program that I'm managing. So I'm managing a program where artists can apply for scholarship grants to create an album or do a research project or actually anything that helps their career. And this is a very open and flexible funding, and we have also funded artists with disabilities over the past years. And yeah.
So do you think a disability quote would be something that you'd support? Because like we have women's quotes, we have all sorts of quotes all over the place, but do you think a disability quote would be something that made sense, or do you think it's rubbish?
So far we have a quote in terms of gender, but we don't have another quote. I generally think quotes really make sense, and you can also see, I really like numbers, you know, I really want to know who we fund, and we can only know this when we really do collect statistical data, which we do a lot. So we really know who we fund and who we don't reach yet. And there are actually a lot of people we also don't reach yet. And I also have to say that we have applications from artists with disabilities, but not as many as I would like to have. And I think the way to get more applications is really to do this groundwork, to go into the communities, to have people in our team with disabilities. You know, it's so important on different levels, to work on different levels, to change our programs externally, but also to see how do we work as an organization, how accessible and inclusive are we as an organization. And it's a very long process, and I would also say that we also have to learn still a lot.
And I like that a lot. I like the idea that you actually include people in your team with a disability. I like the idea a lot. You have made inclusion a mandatory part of your funding programs, which is a bit like it already. In the UK, it's a nationwide thing for culture. For public culture institutions, it's a nationwide law that obliges any institution to have inclusion as a mandatory part of their program if they want it to be funded. You do that already, at least at Initiative at Musicport Berlin. What has changed since then? Is there change? Have people kind of thought a bit more about it?
Yes. Yeah, we do make it a mandatory part, but I wish it was mandatory for every kind of funding, and I sometimes don't get why it isn't, because there are also anti-discrimination laws in Germany, and why don't we address this in funding, and why don't we take it more seriously and make it also a bit more strict? So we decided to come up with our own regulations, basically, it was, I would say, also a learning curve, because I think in the beginning, I mean, we have been existing for 10 years now, and inclusion and diversity have been at the core of our mission from the beginning on. But I think the learning curve was that in the beginning we basically said we want to fund inclusive projects and please be inclusive. And then we realized many project makers don't know what that means and how to, what does it mean to have an inclusive events. Many people think about accessibility for wheelchair users, but they don't really think so they think it's really expensive to make a festival accessible. They don't think about, that there are so many different levels on how you can make an event inclusive. And then we realized, okay, and what happened then is, I think, also a lot of tokenism, about we had it when we introduced our gender quota, that festival makers were doing like an empowerment festival for female artists, but then you look at the structure of the festival and you only have men in the managing teams. And I think this is a very common thing that happens also with inclusion. I think especially in terms of inclusion, that teams aren't really inclusive. And then in the end, that's just tokenism, if you use these kinds of topics and you really only treat it as a topic in order to get funding grants. And so we realized, okay, we have to, dig a lot more deeper into what the structures of the events that we fund actually look like. And we also have to help the projects that we fund and qualify them to make events accessible. And now what we do is, for example, that already in the application process, we ask people, okay, what do you plan in terms of accessibilities? And we give a couple of options, and already these options make people think, because it's maybe not just, accessibility in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of communication and so on. And then we also started to give sort of counseling to some events that want to become more inclusive but don't know how. And that's also going really well, so that they have one-on-one meetings with people that have disabilities and that can support them in becoming inclusive.
So how accessible is Music Board itself as a funding institution?
Accessible in...
I mean, you said you have, for example, people in your team and stuff, so do you think about your own accessibility quite a lot?
Yeah. Yes, and I think it works on so many levels. I think, as I already said, are we inclusive as a team? We definitely have to become much more inclusive than we are now. And also, how accessible is our funding? What is our application tool structured like? What kind of language do we use? I think I mentioned when we talked before this example that we, for example, in my scholarship program, we fund musicians, and we ask for 3 tracks when people want to apply. We ask for 3 tracks. And then recently I got a question if deaf performers can also apply, and I said, yes, of course, that would be amazing, because at our festival, Pop Culture, we also do a festival, we work a lot with deaf performers. But then I realized, okay, but deaf performers don't have tracks to upload, so our structure is, of course, bound to a certain norm of an artist that does music that hearing people can hear. And so we definitely still have to do a lot to become more accessible. And I think it's also really for us being as flexible as possible. And, if someone has applied for funding already, you know that flexibility and funding usually don't go into a sentence. If you have done it, it's usually quite a hassle and many regulations and rules. And these are also rules that we have to follow. But when you decide to be accessible and inclusive, you have to be more flexible to different needs and to think out of this normative thinking of an artist and what an artist needs.
What would you like to see changing to make music more accessible for people with disabilities? I mean, for artists especially.
Yeah. I think I would really like to see a change on the structural level as well, because we so often talk about the individual level, and you can see this, for example, in this discourse now about the Rammstein topic right now, that people in the music industry, they really shy away from talking about the power structures that are in place in the music industry. They talk about, and also the media, they talk about the individual level, the relation between the fan and the star, but they don't address the actual topic, and which is that there are power structures in the music industry that favor some people and don't favor other people. And I also think that a lot of institutions like ours, they do nice programs, inclusive programs, but they don't really look at how is power distributed in my institution and who holds power, how transparent is our process. And this is what I would like to see more self-criticism also.
It's quite interesting, yeah. Very, very. I absolutely agree with you, Maureen, especially that thing about the favorite and least favorite, and not. That's the whole music business seems to be depending on it. Really, I mean, that's not just affecting people with disability, but I think it's a very interesting topic, and I think we should rethink and question that very much. So thank you for pointing that out. Last but not least, I would like to talk to El Caballero. And the great thing is when I talked to him was that I realized how many similarities there are between the LGBTIQ plus community and our community. And I became aware of how important allyship is. First of all, tell us a bit, just so for those who maybe have forgotten about my long introduction at the beginning, what exactly do you do at Schwutz?
My role is called the artistic director, and I would like to share a quick story of his or her story of Schwutz. So that queer club, and I guess some of you know it, it started like a meeting point, a safe space for gay men in the 70s. So this club exists for 45 years now, and it grew bigger and bigger and more structure, and then it became a union, and we moved a lot. And what we do is that we provide a space mainly for queer peoples with different backgrounds, and we offer a safe space for women of all sexualities, and it is more or less in our DNA that we are a safe space, because like the normal heterosexual macho dude, he avoids that gay temple of love because he's afraid of us still, and that's a good thing. So it leads to that there are allyships which are maybe not so transparent. So for example, like heterosexual women who want to just have a night out and show their boobs without being like grabbed at or all that kind of stuff, who just want to enjoy themselves, they can do it there, because for sure they won't experience maybe the same, they won't experience like the sexual harassment they do in regular clubs. So yes, and when I started working at Schwutz 9 years ago, they hired me and they said to me that I should repoliticize the space, because there were club nights, but it was not that political anymore. And then I said, okay, I'd love to do that, but the political side of it, what I will do is that I will try to make it more inclusive in any sense. So that gay space transformed slowly and still is transforming into a queer space where everyone should feel like happy and themselves at that place. And it's still necessary, because we're really busy with providing stages for queer people and the queer community. And I always say, if people are not showing up anymore, it might be because the environment and the society is inclusive and respectful. But if people are coming and enjoying that overwhelming feeling by being in the majority for the first time, then it's a clear sign that the community space still needs to be provided.
Now, if you listen to El Cavaliere, you realized that there is so much of what he said, of what we've been saying about disabled community just 5 minutes ago. Basically, there is so much political and social injustice. There is so much cliches. People are afraid of LGBTIQ plus people, just like they are afraid of us, because we bite. We all bite, you know. I remember a story when I was at university. People would follow me with my food at Mensa, and I would say, why are they following me? Is something in my face? Is there something wrong? Did I spill anything on my shirt? And then they'd sit there watching me fascinatedly that I can eat with knife and fork. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I watched them for a couple of minutes, and then I got up and said, would you mind next time bringing a camera, and then you can take a photo, and I actually will take it and sign it for you guys. And then do me a favor, please, sod off and never come back again. Let me eat in peace. So that's kind of what we're used to. We're always the aliens. But for some reason, I feel that the LGBTIQ plus community has managed to make their point a bit more clear than we did. Because very often I feel we're either very angry or we're very thankful. But we're hardly very sexy. I'm sorry, this is just a personal point of view, and this is not factually I can't prove it. There is no statistics. This is just Amy's personal point of view. So please hit me if you wish. But I always feel you guys are amazing at promoting and making things clear in a very structured and very clear way, but without being too, too boring. Would you mind telling me how it's done? Because I think we need to learn.
First I would like to mention that not only I guess 5 years ago, being trans, and I'm a trans guy, was I was being called sick by the WHO because was trans people were sick, called sick. So as homosexuals have been, as we queer people, as intersexual people are still sometimes considered. And it just took the community to gather and reflect on what society is doing to us, to create that spaces and to be resistant against that point of view towards us. For example, I got asked a lot of times to do some interviews about me being trans, and I said, no, I don't want to do that anymore. It was a topic as well on the stage before, or they wanted to know, did I do any operations, or did I take hormones, or how painful was my childhood, and how complicated is my life? And I just said, no, we'll talk to you about that. And if you want to interview me, we can talk about my life or whatever. But I don't want to be put in that shitty pity fuck box. Or I'm a happy queer pervert, and I'm crazy as you like. I embrace it totally, and I don't give a shit about you. And I think this helped a lot. It's about resistance and it's about openness, and just addressing the transformation of Schwutz from a more gay space to a more queer space. It just was that openness and the resistance and speaking always let's do it, let's invite people, let's do cooperations, let's, when so many queer refugees arrived in Berlin from the Syrian, from the Arabic world where the war was going on, we just said, yes, sure, we don't have a party event where there is a dance floor providing all the amazing pop hits from the Arabic region. So we're gonna do that. So people have their home at Schwutz because they're queer, and so they need their home there as well. And more or less, it's easy. It's just making that extra effort. Include people, invite people, and think about what you can change. And in terms of accessibility, I'm sometimes amazed, Schwutz is wheelchair accessible, and it is still a super rare thing in Berlin. Only that. It is crazy how not accessible venues are. Or for example, it's when we were shut down in the Corona pandemic, we did a lot of fundraising streamings because we needed to survive, because we are not getting any funding as well. We need to exist out of our own. This is another thing that we the Schwutz only exists because of the queer community. It is for, from, and with the queer community. And so there were many, there was an amazing drag artist. She's called Chantello. I didn't know her before. And she's deaf, and she came up to me and she said, so you're doing this amazing live streams. Let's do it, let's make it, and I'm gonna conceptualize it with you together, and then we will specifically poke the hearing queer community and everyone who was watching about their stereotypical point of view on us, and we're gonna show them that we are just badass way hell of a sexy artists we are, and yeah, it was amazing. Like it was so good, and the good part of it was that it said so many other things, like things were rolling. The artists were more known, they were invited more, the deaf artists, and I think you need to make an extra effort to change things, but it's still worth it.
So, Daniel, would you mind taking your drag syndrome over to Schwutz? I think we should do a big party over there and get together.
Yes.
Let's set up a date.
I know already when. I will talk to you later.
Yeah, as you said, it's really hard even to bring disabled patrons to clubs. So, some disabled people are naughty. They don't go out. It's very difficult to bring audience with disabilities, especially people with learning disabilities.
Yeah, because they've been taught all their lives that they shouldn't go out and they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and it's after 9 o'clock in the evening. Oh my God.
It's bedtime.
Yeah, so that's a
I
big
tell you
problem.
something. At the spaceship, we start at 5 p.m. and we end at 0. But afterwards, there's always a techno party from the Menschmeier, and you don't have to go out and pay another entry. You can stay there. And even in the professional social welfare scene and with parents, what we are doing there, we're going into the club. People are taking drugs, drinking alcohol. It's dark. It's a really dark, heavy club, the Menschmeier. And we have lots of people who are stay there all the night long, and it's working. It's no problem, and just do it.
Did you ever get weird parents coming to you and saying, "How dare you? Our daughter is still out till 3 o'clock."
No, it's 18 plus, and we don't have this discussion. But we did. 2015, we did a big electronic open air at my placement. It's a very big placement where our office is, and there were maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people on this place, and there was a very, very old volunteer who is supporting discotheques, and she has also a handicapped son with a mental disability. And she is really old-fashioned, and she said, and we planned this open air outside, but it was our first steps. And for our safe, we do our usually discotheque for people with disabilities, also with DJs with disabilities, on the room in this house. And nobody was there, it's just the DJs. All people are outside. And these very old, maybe she's 75 years old, I don't know, a volunteer, she came out and said to me, "Ha, it's fucking cool music. Smokes like, really like marijuana here outside, but it's fucking cool music." And who wants to go there upstairs to this boring sounds? So we make it right.
Very good move. You know what? One other thing that I've been I liked El Cavaliero's point when he said it's about like, I don't want to talk about who I am and what I'm like. I don't want to get up in the morning and have to think. I mean, nobody of us. I mean, I don't think you get up in the morning, El Cavaliero, and think, "Oh, I'm a trans person.
A sick pervert.
I'm a oh, it's or God, I'm blind. Oh God, I need to go and wash my face. Oh, will I find my cleansing foam? Oh no, I will probably run into the wardrobe. Shit. It's so hard being blind. I mean, this is not, and we don't want to be talking about our disability or about being queer, about being whatever. I don't want to talk about my hair every day. It's like talking about my hair. It's like getting up in the morning, talking about my hair for 24 hours. And that's one of the reasons why I felt like I never wanted to be an influencer. I mean, I'm very happy that there are people out there who do it. And I feel a lot of respect for them. All these activists that go out and help the word get spread. But I would love to see a day where we don't need that anymore, where being disabled or being queer is normal, where it's just like, where I don't have to think about this. is this something that how can we stop these cliches? I mean, we're 2023, and sometimes I feel we're still living in the Stone Age. What is wrong? What do you think, El Cavaliero?
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with people who are like this. I think, or more. I don't care if people are like rude or ignorant or disrespectful. I try not to care at all. I had my struggles, like with my family and stuff like this, or with other people, or with that journalists or whatever. And in the clinics and wherever, in university, wherever I was, I had my struggles, but I don't care about these people anymore. It took me some years to get to that point. And I do care about creating that spaces. And I think that's where we need to put the focus to use, for example, fundings we can get to create spaces, to give people the stage they deserve. Like, for example, we get from the pandemic, and I'm really grateful from that, from the Neustadt Kulturmilliarde, it is a very German thing, which was offered to club in the first time, and so we could provide a super high professional stage, we could pay the artists very well, and we could stream the concerts of only queer people, various backgrounds again, and we provided then music videos more or less for them. Because it's so important, there's a lack of like professional, respectful representation of queer artists, and what I heard, I might think that there are similarities again between the disabled community and the queer community, and its overlaps and the intersections. And I think that's the thing, like protect that spaces, support each other, get to know each other, and don't put the focus on the stupid people out there.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Werner wollte was fragen. You wanted to ask something, Werner. Was möchtest du fragen?
Und zwar, ich habe mal eine Frage. Was muss man machen, um dazuzugehören? Ich verstehe das alles nicht. Sind es meine Schuhe, die scheiße aussehen, meine Klamotten, mein Aussehen allgemein im Gesicht? Ich verstehe das alles nicht.
That's an amazing question. That's an amazing question.
Das ist ein Zitat aus dem Song Tierisch verboten, den Werner mitgemacht hat. Er hat einfach nur seinen eigenen Text zitiert, was ich ganz toll finde, anstatt einer Frage, weil das nochmal zeigt, jetzt spreche ich einfach Deutsch, ich lasse es. Dass es einfach zeigt, dass es authentisch ist und nicht irgendwie gesteuert wird, sondern es sind Werners eigenen Worte.
Werner's just quoted out of his song and he said, what do I have to do to be part of it? Is it my looks? Is it my face? Is it something I say? What is it that you want? And I think this is an amazing question. And I'll just try and explain what El Cavaliero said. I'll translate that to Werner. El Cavaliero hat nämlich gerade gesagt, das hat lange gedauert, dass ich darauf gekommen bin, dass es mir einfach mal scheißegal ist. Dass es mich ein Scheiß interessiert. Ich mache mein Ding und was wir brauchen, sind safer spaces. Für Menschen, die Gehirn haben und die verstehen, dass das wichtig ist, dass wir alle dazugehören und dass Kultur für alle ist. Und je mehr das passiert, desto mehr werden wir irgendwann mehr und die weniger. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. And thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Maureen. Danke, Werner. Thank you, Markus. Thank you, El Cavaliero, for being here with me, taking all my stupid questions. Thanks for your time. Have a lovely evening, everyone.